evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am a composer and creator of contemporary cultural events. Usually, people think of a composer, like me, someone who has a direct contact with music, and more precisely, with musical instruments, music scores, organized musical sounds, concert halls, and stages. This is not the exact case, though, at least with me. To clarify this, let me take things from the beginning. At that time, I was simply a passionate listener. But I was not listening to recordings on tapes, on cassettes, or on concerts. I was a weird kind of a listener. I did not have this privilege to hear on radio, on TV, as I said before, on gramophones, because as refugees, the only asset we had were 4 walls and a roof. That was all. Also, I was growing in an environment, in a small city, where compared to other European cities, music education and concerts were extremely limited to non-existent. It felt like being in a musical desert. But still, I was this listener, a passionate, weird kind of a listener. Here is an example. It was my very first autumn, as far as I can remember. It was late at night, completely dark, completely silent, slightly noisy because it was raining. I was in deep sleep. All of a sudden, I felt something in my ear. At the beginning, I thought it was a fly, but actually, my ear got wet. So, what happened? I mentioned that a single raindrop fell from the roof directly and literally into my ear. I woke up in panic. My parents had to move the bed aside, but since raindrops continue falling, they put an empty basket, and then the rain, who continued falling, fell at first inside the empty metal basket and afterwards on the surface that was formed. This is an example from my sound environment during my childhood. Annoying and irritating, but intriguing and exciting at the same time. A listener, like me, perceived this incident as the first acoustic drama of his life, with real sound effects much more effective than the best surround system that you can experience in a cinema hall. So what was so fascinating with these raindrops that turned out to be so significant in my future life as a composer? Most importantly, I became conscious of the sounds that surrounded me. I noticed that every moment of our life is synchronized with all kinds of natural sounds and noises. We everybody know and heard about landscapes. However, here we do not have any visual elements, but acoustic elements. That is why we can speak of soundscapes. My life's soundscape, years later, became an integral component of my music. Back in the year 2003, I was invited by one major German car manufacturer at its transparent factory in Dresden to compose a classical piece, as usual for choir and orchestra. Before I start composing, I changed my role. I became a kind of detective, similar to Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot, who was, by the way, fond of Mozart and Bach. So somehow we have a connection. As a sound detective, I investigated spaces and their acoustics and tried to solve the mystery of how to take advantage of them in the music. In the aforementioned factory, there was a high glass tower used as a car showroom. I found out that when the bell of a trumpet, the front part of this instrument, was closed near this glass tower, a unique and impressive echo-like sound effect was produced. Similarly, I took advantage of a unique glass elevator. A trumpet player in the elevator produced a different sound effect while the elevator was moving up and down, hence as a result of the kinetic function. Well, all looked so inspiring and exciting until I came across two main problems. The first problem was that I couldn't move that huge tower and the huge glass elevator inside the concert hall. So, actually the answer was very easy. And there was only one solution. The actual performance must take place in this factory. The second problem was that this car factory was so huge, with several floors, which made it impossible for the conductor to be seen by the musicians who had to follow his signals. Luckily, I had a eureka moment taken from a soundscape of everyday life. I thought of the car horn as a signal which can become the medium of communication between the musicians and the conductor, as it is exactly used by drivers in the streets to communicate with each other. So I used the car which was being manufactured there, it was easy, so to send signals, but also light signals, to achieve the necessary coordination and synchronization. In this way, the cars and their horns, sound mediums from our everyday soundscape, became all of a sudden part of the music. After this experience, I became fully aware of the musical potential in vehicles and composed a series of works in which not only cars, but also motorcycles, motorbikes, ships, and aviation elements were part of the music. In 2008, 5 years later after this experience, I was invited by the Stuttgart State Opera to compose an opera piece. Again, here, I thought, why do we have to perform an opera in an opera house? So let's go to a car dealer's showroom. And this is what happened. You know that an opera has, of course, several singers, orchestra, choirs, and so on. In this opera, there were 6 cars again as protagonists. They have taken the role of forest creatures, since the title of this piece was called The Hunt. The lights of the cars were used as the eyes of these forest creatures in the forest. So let's hear a short excerpt in which trafficator and hazard lights are used as instruments. The highlight of the vehicle cycle came in 2011 with Auto Symphonic, where an entire car orchestra consisting of 80 cars from all eras and types, including antique cars, buses, trucks, lorries, and so on, came in interaction with a full symphony orchestra, several choirs, several percussion groups, in total 300 musicians. It also engaged high-end technologies and multimedia interactions. The cars, as you can see here, were notated in a traditional manner. This is a common score. But if you look more precisely in the left corner, you can see, for example, in the top on the left, there is written Rolls-Royce. So, and beneath the armrest. And the first note, as you can see, it is noted with forte, with the dynamic, has to be played with the Italian expression, like violins use it or trumpets, con passione. So, on the fourth line, in the very end, there is a horn type, which is actually nasal for a horn type, because it is an old-timer car, the Alto Triumph, which has to be performed dolce con espressione. So, press the car's horn sweetly and with expression. Basically, sitting on a driver's seat is similar to sitting in front of a drum set. Foot on pedal, Left and right hand hold the sticks or handle the wheel and the instruments around. In total, 800 natural car sounds were incorporated in this piece. Let's get a short impression of the whole. So now, all together, let's try to discover the musicality of our everyday life. Let's go to the streets, in the airports, in the train stations, at mighty volcanoes, in a robotic laboratory, anywhere where we are surrounded by sound and get challenged to interact. The only prerequisite is to have our ears open, detect them, and be aware of them. Do not perceive anything in an unexpected way. Think of the dustman of our neighborhood very early in the morning, who is a virtuoso performer of his job. So, very early in the morning, he gets out, he slaps his finger to wake up, then he puts his foot on the floor, he exhales, and then he goes towards the dustbin, slowly exhaling. He comes here, he looks at it, he opens it, he closes it, he opens it, he closes it, he opens it, he takes it up, he throws it on the floor, he holds it up, he shakes it, he moves it around, he brings it here nearby to the garbage car, he holds it up with a voice, "Ho!" He puts it on the garbage car, he lets it bounce, and then he hits it from the back so to give a signal to the driver to hold it up. In the meantime, he whistles a melody of his own, he's waiting, then it comes back, he looks at it, he sees it, he hits at it, he puts it below, he puts it back, and then he slightly puts it again back, but relief because it's empty now. Remember, it is empty, so the sound different. He holds it up, he takes the cover, he puts it on, he tries to close it, he opens it, he closes, and then he goes, and then he whistles to the driver to move to the next home. Altogether, the dustman is a brilliant soloist. But he's not performing alone. He has an entire orchestra. If the weather conditions permit it, and if it's sunny, he has the dawn choral of the songbirds, or probably here in Cyprus, the cicadas. If it is rainy, so you have for surely experienced that if the rain falls on plastic or on metal, the sound color is different. It's like a symphony orchestra. The violins sound different than the brass. In another piece of mine called Staubzucker, called powdered sugar, everyday life sounds are prominent and act as a constituent part of the compositional process. However, here the approach is slightly different. This case is artificial. Why? Because everyday sounds and natural noises are being transformed and represented and imitated, in this case, by 4 guitar players. Noise and junk are transformed into music and art. The wrong becomes right, and the right becomes wrong. Here is a short impression of the piece. So I'm sure you have heard the dustman in the end and the raindrops from the guitar players. Before closing, I would like to make sure that you are on the right way to awaken the artist in you and to emancipate the soundtrack of your life. Allow me to give you a final test through my work's perspective. Is this a road signal? No, this is a music score. So you have seen the transformation of the graphic of the rhombus into a choir piece. Is this an antique car? No, this is a modern instrument. Is this a high-tech car factory? No, this is a classical concert hall. Is this a city's central square in Baroque style? No, this is a 65,000 square meters innovative stage. Thank you very much for your attention.